Everyone who plans on playing Cataclysm is preparing in their own way. We all have our own goals and things that we want to get done, or things we want to just achieve before the pre-patch is over, or even during the pre-patch we have things that we want to get done before launch. It's easy to put a video together like this one that I've already done saying do all these generic things and you'll be off to a good start in Cataclysm. But then there'll be things that I'm doing that you might not have thought of, or when you hear it, it might just spur on some inspiration for a way to make the next couple of weeks go a bit quicker. You will consider some of the stuff I'm doing pointless, too try hard, or maybe even just fail to see the reward versus the time investment required. But then other points I'm sure you'll jump on instantly and start working on them as soon as you finish this video. Which, before you even get started on the video, you might as well click like and subscribe because, I don't know, you're probably going to enjoy it. With that all said and done, let's just jump straight in. The first one you want to start thinking about is professions, and that does seem quite basic, and trust me, they're not going to be quite as basic as this one as we move through the video. But understanding what professions you want on your main, your alts, your farming characters is really important, because between now and the pre-patch is really when you should be getting all of these things set up. So the thing is, my end goal is to be completely self-sufficient. It's something that I've never bothered with in Wrath, but I will be in Cata. So not only do I want every profession covered and maxed in Cata, every spare slot available on my classes will be going alchemy, and then of course having a single gatherer, which will be my druid, that's going to be mining and herbalism. If you're not already aware, the reason for alchemy is so you can transmute true gold, which is going to be a big gold maker. So that's another thing that you need to think about now. If you haven't already done your alchemy mastery, you want to get it done ASAP, because the easiest way to get your alchemy mastery done without having to go into a dungeon is doing transmute mastery anyway, which is exactly what you're going to want. The main difference is now versus the pre-patch, at the moment it's only going to be 4 primal mites, which you'll be able to pick up off the auction house relatively cheap, whereas if you wait until the pre-patch, it's going to turn into true gold, which you're absolutely not going to want to be wasting on getting your mastery. Now that's really the first part that I've been preparing, so going, right, what do I want all my alts to be, and how can I maximise the amount of alchemists I've got, whilst also making sure I've got 2 tailors to be able to make the BOE gear for my mage as quickly as possible. The second part really comes down to what you want your mains professions to be long term. So I'm going in first on my rep paladin, which will be engineering and alchemy. Engineering and alchemy isn't what I want it to be long term, but the benefit from alchemy early on with having that extra transmute, being able to get access to a really good epic trinket that's going to tide you over while you're doing heroics. And then as soon as I get something to replace that and I'm happy with the amount of true golds I've made, I'll be switching to engineering and tailoring. So my engineering will already be done. So I need to be able to max tailoring pretty quick without messing around during Cataclysm. But the easiest way to do that is I'm preparing all the cloth that's going to get me from 1 to 450 now. Again, it's something else to prepare. It's something else that's actually quite fun, especially if you've got an enchanter that you want to level at the same time. So let's say you were spamming dungeons for cloth now, you'll be able to send all the greens over to disenchant to actually level an enchanter as well, which is actually what I'm personally going to be doing. Now you might think it's a bit too try-hard worrying about getting a whole second profession ready, lined up, waiting, but when you really think about it, right now there's probably not that much for you to do, so going around and farming enough materials to change your profession early on without wasting time during Cata, it just makes sense. And to be honest, that about covers professions. Know what you want if you're going to want to switch at some point. Let's say you was going in as Inscription early on, maybe to be pumping out Dark Moon cards and get the big shoulder enchant before you're exalted with Therazane. Then you might want to keep Inscription for a couple of weeks, but then change to Engineering, which, if that's the case, just make sure you've got an Engineering kit sat in one of your bank characters somewhere and you're golden. Next up is a really strange one, but everybody knows blood DKs are going to be super strong, and 1 DK might not be enough for you. So if you've got some time at the moment, you can really take advantage of the whole realm consolidations that are going on, because many of the guys that I personally play with at the moment are leveling to level 55 on dead realms, and they're leveling to 55 on dead realms purely so they can start a DK, do the DK starting zone, and then transfer an extra DK over onto the main realm. I know that that's not relevant for everyone, but if you are like a DK enthusiast and you want more than 1 but you don't know how to, then of course you could just boost the character on another realm, create a DK. It's like, you know, you're having to waste money on a character that you don't want to then move one that you do want for free. You just level to 55, which probably a good time to mention Rested XP, because you can pre-order the Cataclysm Rested XP guide now, which will be the fastest way from 1 to 85, absolutely no doubt. Many people say, do I need it? The quests are so linear. No, is the honest answer, you don't. If you want to level as fast as possible, I would say it's 20 to 25% faster. I think it's worth it, but if you think it's worth it as well, it's an affiliate link, so any guides bought go towards supporting the channel. So thanks for that. But yeah, if you go over and you level on another server, get a 55 DK created, and then get it out of the starting zone, you'll be able to move it across for free. Just make sure you check this list where you can see where the free transfers are available from and to, because it would suck if you created it on a server where your transfers weren't actually going to your main server where you want to be. And also, while we're talking about dead servers, if you've got a character on a dead server at the moment that happens to be maxed, you should take advantage of everyone moving off, because everyone will be fleeing to their new servers to quickly go and find, new guilds or form guilds and whatever else. And as your server population dies to the point where we're getting ever so close to pre-patch, you could be taking advantage of this and going and winning the fishing competition to be able to get your heirloom ring. So many people in the guild have been doing this. I've seen more people getting their heirloom ring in the last week or two than I have the entire expansion. Now with some of the more obvious ones. Honor cap, you're going to want to get to 75k. Now this isn't going to honor cap you when the pre-patch comes out and the currency conversion happens. In fact, this is only going to get you about 1.8k of the new honor, but you will have some different currencies that will also convert over to honor, and it's not going to take you long to actually finish off that cap, because the cap is 4k when the currency conversion happens. So you're nearly halfway the day of the pre-patch if you get your 75k today. The Justice Point cap is another obvious one that we're all doing. You need 346 emblems of Frost or Triumph. Now that's not both, and that's not 346 of one. You could have 200 of one, 146 of the other. As long as you've got 346 in total, that will get you your 4k Justice Point cap when the pre-patch happens. This is assuming that the currency conversion happens the same way it did in the past, because each emblem of Frost or emblem of Triumph is worth 11.58 Justice Points. So you can do the maths yourself. Depending on how many you've got, times it by 11.58, that's how many Justice Points you're going to get. Now, I'll be completely honest with you, I don't think this one is overly important. Everyone seems to be obsessing over it and making sure that they've got that magic 346 number. I'm going to mention it just in case during the pre-patch you're going to be busy doing nothing but archaeology or maybe leveling alts. But if you're going to play at all during the pre-patch, you're going to be getting Justice Points anyway, and I suspect quite a lot of us are going to want to be mastering our new rotations, doing ICC with all of these new talents and everything. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun, so you will still get Justice Points. If you're not on 346, don't worry about it. There is one thing that our guild has gone particularly hard with, and I'm guilty of it as well, and that's Stonekeeper shards. Now, I want to put it out there completely that I do not see this being deleted by Blizzard. I know many of these like pre-stack farm things do, but it would actually be completely wrong for them to just stop it completely. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you get 30 Stonekeeper shards and then go to the vendor in Wintergrasp, you can trade it in for a commendation. Now, don't worry about how much honor the commendations are giving you at the moment. The important thing is how much these are going to give you post pre-patch, and you're not even going to want to use them in the pre-patch. You're actually going to want to use them during Cataclysm. Now, everyone's fixating on the fact that these are going to give you 150 honor. So for every 30 Stonekeeper shards, it's going to be 150 honor, and then you'll be able to transfer the honor into Justice Points at a reduced rate. So essentially, by having these in your bag, you're going to be able to increase that 4k Justice Point cap that you're going to be going into Cataclysm with. But saying that, you could easily just use your 4k honor points to buy some PvP gear, then restock your honor back up with the commendations, and then buy more PvP gear. So you get full value out of the honor rather than getting PvE gear. But that will depend on what you actually want to do. Me personally, I want to do a lot of PvP in Cata, so I'll likely be using these commendations to help me get PvP gear rather than PvE. Because we're all going to be doing loads of heroics anyway. So we're all going to be getting loads of Justice Points. You're going to be getting 346 gear from the heroics and from the Justice Points. So I don't see it being overly important in terms of PvE gear, but definitely you're getting a head start on PvP gear. It's going to be amazing. There's one thing you need to bear in mind. Like I said, everyone's fixating on them being 150 each commendation. That is not what they was originally. I don't know when this was changed, or if it's a tooltip error or what, but back during original Cataclysm, these were just given 50, and that's it. Which makes perfect sense, because how the currency converts over is Stonekeeper shards for 30 of them, if you've got them in your currency tab, equates to 48 honor. Now, if you had the commendation, you was lucky. You got an extra 2 honor for having the commendation rather than the actual Stonekeeper shards in your currency tab. But the fact that they're giving 300% more than what the currency is actually worth don't make sense, and I could see it changing. But this is why it's not a wasted farm. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do all this and I'm going to get nothing. Even if you get 50, it's still better than nothing. And that's the whole reason I would be super, super surprised if Blizzard actually stopped this altogether, is because Stonekeeper shards have got value. So you should at least get the value for them. But if we get 150 each one, we're going to be laughing, because many of us have farmed 2, 3, even 4,000 Stonekeeper shards over the last couple of weeks. Prepping your glyphs is the next one. Now, this is one that I'm hearing a lot of people talk about, and I don't think people quite realise how they change. I don't mean in terms of the actual glyph panel, so when you look at your glyphs, you can see that it's more like a collection tab now. Whenever you want to change a glyph, you just need a reagent, and that's it. You don't need to physically buy the glyphs. And the best way to actually look at this is either Wowpedia, Wowhead, just any resource you want. And if you was to put in, for example, Glyph of Holy Light, you can see at the moment it grants 10% of the heal amount up to 5 friendly targets. Now, this glyph doesn't exist in Cataclysm, so you might want to know what it actually changes to. So if you go up the top here where it says Cataclysm, you've not even got to click on it. You can just highlight over it and it will show you it's now Glyph of Divine Favour. The tooltips are not working properly on Wowhead at the moment, so you can go and have a look at exactly what Glyph of Divine Favour does by looking at another database. But it's important that you know what glyphs you're going to get. So if you're looking on the beta at all the glyphs and you're like, right, these are all the ones, like the important ones that I'm going to need, it's worth at least just having a quick look and going, Glyph of Crusader Strike in Wrath does that. Glyph of Crusader Strike in Cataclysm is exactly the same. For how long it takes, just double check. As I say, some of these glyphs turn into really weird things, like Holy Light going into Divine Favour. You know, there's so many examples like that. So just have a quick check, see what they turn into, and you'll be laughing. A really obvious one is Zul'Gurub. I think everybody spoke about this, but again, because I'm talking about how I'm personally preparing, I think it's important to mention. I am doing Zul'Gurub every reset on 2 different characters at the moment, and yeah, only 2, because I've got a lot of cloth wearers that struggle. And maybe you're a cloth wearer, or you've got cloth wearers that struggle. The important thing to do is make sure that you're grouping up with 1 or 2 people and getting it done every reset. You're better off going with someone else on a class what is essentially going to have a wasted lockout by just not going. You know, so me, for example, I'm clearing it on my Paladin, I'm clearing it on my Druid, and then I've got a Priest, Mage, Warlock, all where I'm then teaming up with other people to go and do it, just for those extra chances at one of us getting the mount. But we're so close to the pre-patch now and both of these mounts disappearing that you want to have as many chances a week as you physically can. So if you haven't already started doing this, bearing in mind some people have been doing this literally since Zul'Gurub opened originally in vanilla and still haven't got the mount. I'm not saying by starting right now you're actually going to get it, but you're going to have more of a chance getting it by doing it than not doing it. This next one is less about what I need and more about what some of the guys in the guild who have re-rolled to play together for Cata need. Make sure you do what you can do to get a 310% speed mount. The easiest, in my opinion, will be doing Ulduar 10, so doing an achievement run to get Glory of the Ulduar Raider. That at this point in time should be mega comfy for most people. This will save you 5k gold by not having to buy 310 riding. Now, whilst mounts are account-wide now in Cataclysm, well, they're even account-wide now in Wrath, that didn't happen originally until Mr. Pandaria. I'm not quite sure how this interaction is gonna work, and you can't tell from playing on the beta. So I don't know if literally we'll need a 310 mount obtained on the character you're on to get that 310% speed, or as long as you've got one on your account, like in Wrath at the moment, it'll apply to everything. I have a feeling it's going to apply to everything, but if you haven't got a 310 mount at the moment, at least get one on your main just to make sure. Now, something else I'm doing at the moment, because the pre-patch is looming and I intend on leveling a rogue, I'm currently getting a full profession kit for both professions, everything for first aid, tons of consumables, so elixirs for all the way up, potions for all the way up, and BOEs. So BOEs for different level brackets, all enchanted. Basically, so while I'm leveling, every time I ding, I'm putting on a new piece of gear, fully enchanted, just pumping all the way through RDF and, you know, even out questing. Even if you don't go to the extent that I'm going to with my rogue, just getting a few bits and getting a few enchants and popping it in the mailbox ready for when you jump on it and start pumping, it's definitely worth it. And as I say, it's something that you can start doing right now. Now this one I absolutely hate to say, but it's something I'm doing, so I've got to mention it. Just try and get in a couple of GDKPs between now and pre-patch, just so you can go into the pre-patch and go into Cata with a decent amount of gold, because I think most GDKPs, you're looking at like 30k for a single ICC. It's definitely worth it. Even if you're anti-GDKP, you know, just bite the bullet, just go and do one. Now, this one could be more of a personal one to me, just because I've been lazy, but I still don't have Jeeves on my Paladin. So really, rather than focusing solely on the quick guys, make sure you get your Jeeves, just have a think about anything that will help you while you're leveling that you don't already have. This could even be the repair mount, using my last point about GDKPs to make a bit of gold and buy the mount, because just being able to mount up while you're out questing and you can just vendor everything and, you know, buy reagents and all that, it does make life a lot easier. And even when it comes to fast traveling, if there's anything that you don't have already but you want to invest in, like the Dalaran ring would be a prime example. Being able to have an extra teleport to Dalaran, which will also have a portal to your main capital city and a portal to Caverns to Time, which, bearing in mind, Caverns to Time is right next to Oldham. Being able to go from Dalaran to Oldham, you're probably like, yeah, but when I quest in Oldham, I'm going to get a portal that's in Orgrimmar anyway. What difference does it make? Your Hearthstone might be on cooldown. You can't get back to Orgrimmar. You want to go to Oldham, so at least you've now got a ring where you can teleport to Dalaran. Or you could get Jaina's Locket for a portal for your whole group to Dalaran. And don't forget, if you're doing what I'm doing when we were talking about professions right at the start and having a druid that's herbing and mining, most of my herbing and mining is going to be done in Oldham. Now, being able to go back to Dalaran, mail all the stuff over to the appropriate characters, and then take the Caverns of Time portal back and fly to Oldham is going to be far quicker than any other way that I could go. I mean, I could technically just have my Hearthstone set in Oldham, but yeah. The more ways that you've got to get around the world just absolutely makes a massive difference. Now, in a minute, we're going to be talking about quest stacking before launch, so you can run around and hand loads of stuff in and obviously get to 81 before you even start anything in Cataclysm. I want to mention this one separately purely because it's more raiding than pre-questing. If you never managed to get things like Onyxia's Head on 10 and 25, the key quest from Saffron in Nax, or even Reply Code Alpha from Ulduar, try and get hold of them. It's going to give you reason to go back and do these raids, and things like Reply Code Alpha, even Onyxia's Head, they hand in Dalaran, so it's like big XP all in one place. So if you're like sleeping on these raids and you haven't been doing them for ages, but you still haven't actually managed to get Onyxia's Head or Reply Code Alpha or the Saf Key, things like that, just make sure you're at least going in and giving it a shot. The thing is now, I'd imagine a lot of people are going to be doing it, so competition's going to be quite high. Now, the next 2 points are more things about what you're going to want to do in the pre-patch, opposed to what you're going to do now before the pre-patch. But I want to talk about them because there's a lot of misinformation going around, and I kind of want to clarify a few things, because Archaeology is going to be a big one that everybody's doing during the pre-patch. So Archaeology in terms of preparing for level 85, you're going to want to be stacking up on frags. So when you go round and you're doing your surveying, you're going to pick up fragments. Those fragments you then use to solve artifacts. Now, you also get keystones. These keystones are bind on equip. You can buy them, you can trade them, you can do whatever you want with them. You're going to want as many of these as possible. The thing is, what I'm hearing everyone say is, if you're a melee, you want to stock up on troll fragments and troll keystones. No, you don't. You want to stock up on them for everything. The way Archaeology actually works is once you've solved all of the rares for a specific race, you will have a 50% blanket chance, less chance I should say, of getting that race's dig sites. So let's say you solve all the dwarf rares. There's a 50% chance less that a dwarf dig site will even spawn, which that's a big chance. So if you want to increase the chance of getting rares from other races, it's best to complete all the rares with another race. And there's one place where I see that making a huge difference I've heard no one talk about. Now, I need to explain it in 2 parts, because firstly, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting flying during the pre-patch. It sounds like it's coming with Cataclysm itself. The second part is because of that, obviously leveling your Archaeology in Outland and Northrend makes a lot of sense. The problem is, once you get to the point where you are getting dig sites in Outland and Northrend, Outland's fairly useless. It's got pretty much nothing that you're going to want unless you collect toys or you want alt gear and stuff like that. It's not that great. Whereas Northrend is completely different, because Northrend has got Night Elf and Troll dig sites. Now, the majority of the dig sites are Nerubian and Vrykul, but you can solve all of the rares because you don't require 450. The rares require 375 with Vrykul and Nerubian. So if you can get all of the Nerubian and Vrykul solved, now you've got a 50% less chance of getting both of those as dig sites. So you're going to be seeing loads of Night Elf that has got a really good trinket attached to it, and loads of Troll that obviously most melee are going to want their swords with. So even if we can fly during the pre-patch, I see Northrend being a really good place to go, but people won't think of because they probably don't know about the whole 50% less chance thing. Even though there's far more dig sites for Vrykul and Nerubian, you're going to have far less chance of getting them as well, because they've only got a couple of rares each attached to them, so you'll get them solved pretty quickly. But the bottom line is it requires 450 to start getting the 359 epics. Now, I personally don't think we're going to see them in the pre-patch, but at the same time, there is kind of absolutely no reason we shouldn't, because we are basically going to be in patch 4.4. It's going to be Cataclysm with no access to Cataclysm zones. Everything else should remain identical. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing things like Zinrock being solved during the pre-patch. And I bet the place that people will probably be Northrend. Like I say, there's not that many dig sites, but the fact that you're going to be able to fly is going to make a big difference anyway. Just because I like to get ahead of the comments, you might look on something like Wowpedia and see the Vrykul drinking horn as requiring 500. It won't require 500, it will be 375 in line with everything else. I don't know where the 500 skill requirement for Vrykul drinking horn came from, but any dedicated archaeology website that you look at, it's 375. And then my final preparation, and something that people have already been working on, and I've already mentioned during this video, quest stacking, ready to get to 81 just by when Cata launches, running around and handing all your quests in. It's a really common thing to do, and you should absolutely be doing it in Wrath as well. The thing is, you shouldn't be doing it now. I don't like talking about Rested XP twice in one video, but Rested XP are going to be launching a quest stacking guide and then a handing guide, and that's going to be coming at the pre-patch, or probably a couple of days before the pre-patch. The reason they've done it this way is the reason that you should be doing it this way as well. And I don't mean by having to buy the guide, I mean by waiting until the pre-patch before you start stacking quests up. Lots of quest chains will change, especially in the zones like Storm Peaks and Ice Crown, where you're actually wanting to get the majority of your quests from. And this is all because the dungeons quests coming from the entrances now. And because of this, there'll be a lot of quests that you probably haven't even done yourself, such as quests in Halls of Stone or Halls of Lightning, where you'll now go to the entrance and there'll be quests there. So obviously by doing all the dungeon quests that give the most XP anyway, you're going to want to maximize the amount of those quests that you're handing in. But ultimately, if you can think of any item quests that start a quest that can just sit in your bag, any hand-ins where you don't physically need the quest, all those sort of things, then obviously go for it. Me personally, I will be just using the Rested XP guide exactly the same way as I did from TBC into Wrath. The same way most people will, to be fair. And all in all, I would say over the last month or so, that's what I've been doing to prepare. There are things that I still need to prepare. That's how I'm going to be approaching archaeology. So just hopefully that gave you some inspiration to get some of these things done yourself as well. If you enjoyed the video, as always, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.